Welcome or welcome back. This is episode number 5, and it follows along with the previous ones, but it's a casual conversation. So if you walk up and step into it now, think of it like we're at a party or someplace social and you walk into a conversation. That's kind of how this will work. So I'm not going to force anybody to go back and listen to anything. I think if you find it interesting, you will, and if not, you won't, and that's totally cool. The last time I was talking about my experience in the Air Force and how it at least helped me to make decisions about becoming a periodontist. In this one, I want to just kind of tell you my story from a Southern California kid who goes into the military and how it changed me. I grew up in El Cajon, California, as I've said previously, and I had a next door neighbor who was a retired commander of the Navy, but I didn't know anything about military per se. My dad had served 2 years in the Navy as a dentist. During the Korean War, he was stationed on the island of Guam, and this was before I was born. He then came back and went into practice in Glendale, California, and eventually he and my mom moved to San Diego and started a practice in El Cajon, and eventually built a house in El Cajon, and that was the home I grew up in from about the age of 2 all the way through to the time that I left for college. Eventually, once the last child left the house, my sister, they sold it and went and lived on Mission Bay in a condominium for a while, and then became full-time RVers. Had a great time together. So one of the reasons for me going into the military had to do with dental school. It's the expense of the training, obviously. My dad was paying for my college education, but with 4 kids and all of them wanting graduate school level training in medicine and dentistry, he couldn't afford it. And that would have meant that we would go out and get loans. That seems to be the common thing today. Everybody goes out and gets loans for education. Back in the late 70s, it wasn't that as common as it is now. That's a trend that's disturbing to me, but nonetheless, it's a trend. So back then, there was an opportunity to join the military and be on what was called a health profession scholarship program. And the health profession scholarship program essentially commissioned you as a young officer, as a second lieutenant in the Air Force or Army, or ensign in the Navy. You could also call them O1, officer first rank. I didn't know any of this back then. My dad's connection to the Navy was long before I was born, and we as a family did not have a military background. My grandparents weren't in the military either. So I'm a kid growing up in Southern California, and what do you think my politics were? At the time, we were insulated, and we thought in very progressive terms that Southern California was the coolest place in the world to live. And I still think it's a wonderful place for many reasons. But back then, we actually had Ronald Reagan as our governor for a period of time. It was a conservative state for a long time. And because of all of that, conservative society that I grew up in, it was calm and seemed to run well. And what people thought, believed, was not of real big significance or importance at the time. And so I had no opinion about the military except that I thought it was kind of barbaric, kind of a lowbrow kind of thing to do. But I needed the money, and so I made application to all three branches of the military offering this program. That would be the Air Force, Army, and Navy. I had been accepted to dental school. As I said earlier, I was accepted before graduation with a degree. So that meant that I could actually step away from college, stop paying those bills. I moved back home. I took some classes at a local college and worked a little bit and waited for when dental school was going to start. And at the time, I made application to the three branches of the military. And as part of all of that, I had to go to different locations to get military medical physicals. And that's a little bit disturbing, frankly. You're going through a very revealing kind of an examination, if you know what I mean, and where they're basically doing an anal exam, literally. So you go through all of that, and you do the interviews, and then you wait. And in my case, I got the letters back, and all three branches turned me down. I started dental school, and my mother said, well, I think you should reapply. And I told her, I didn't enjoy it the first time. Why would I want to reapply? And she said, I think you should. So I followed her advice, or order, whatever way you want to put it. I respect my mother. And so I went back through it one more time. The end of the story was that I was turned down by the Navy and the Army and accepted by the Air Force, as were both my brothers when they made application for their scholarship programs in medicine. I don't know if what was it that caused the Air Force to look at me one more time and accept me. It could have been that the family was doing this, and that there were two others, and that they thought, well, this is good publicity, because we did take a picture together of the three sons at I think it was my commissioning at Loma Linda, with an officer who came, and I gave my oath to join the military, and my brothers were there, and they wrote an article about it, how we were all in the military going through our respective training programs. So it might have been something like that, but really I have no way of knowing what it was. It was a God thing from my perspective, because I can't tell you what changed. Sometimes it's simply the matter that you did it again, and you were persistent enough, and that showed that you're serious. And perhaps that's what I needed, because of the fact that coming out of the background that I did, I don't think that you could look at my previous life. I didn't do anything with ROTC or anything else having anything to do with the military in the past. Why would they think that I would be a good prospect to join the military? So the fact that I persisted a little bit could have given them the idea that, well, here's somebody who is really serious about us. Let's take a chance on him. And so I joined the military. The first experiences I had were as a reserve second lieutenant. In the summertime, I was required to go to a military facility close by normally and give them a couple of weeks of my time. And I actually went to a dental clinic in San Bernardino that's no longer a base. It was Norton Air Force Base. And I went there and I went to the dental clinic and I worked for them as a dental student lieutenant. And I got an opportunity to meet the dentists and see the clinic and all the rest of it. And what they had me doing was alginate impressions for athletic guards. So people would come in and I'd make impressions. So we'd pour up models and then the lab there would make mouth guards for them. And they would come back in and we'd deliver them. It was a very simple thing to do. I also remember that my uniform was way off. I bought the wrong shoes. The shoes were not regulation. I didn't know how to pin the rank on my collar. It was off. And then some other guy pinned them on me and he was wrong. So a lot of it, little embarrassing things about not being able to understand how to do things. Frankly, it's a really intimidating experience for me. Eventually, I, of course, graduated and was assigned to go to not Shepherd Air Force Base, that's later, to Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana. And I landed there ahead of my wife and child because I had to go to Wichita Falls, Texas for a training program. But I needed to get to Shreveport, Bossier City, and hopefully rent a house, and I needed a car. So I bought a car from a rental car, Avis car rental. That was a Thunderbird. It was a cool car for a kid like me. And I think I rented the house, and then I drove that car over to Wichita Falls, Texas, Shepherd Air Force Base for the medical indoctrination to military training. So military medical service officer, MIMSO, is what it was called. And it was essentially, I think it was like 3 weeks in the middle of summer with the average temperature being about 112 degrees. And I learned how to wear a uniform, officer training and saluting and all the rest. So I see I'm up at 13 minutes. I'm going to stop here and we'll pick it up next time. Thanks a lot.